Hi, I'm Wayne Dyatt, President of Talbot Paramedic Foundation. And on behalf of our Board of Directors and myself, we thank you for the opportunity to share this short video on Talbot Paramedic Foundation. As you will hear, Talbot Paramedic Foundation has a long history in supporting advanced life support services in Talbot County. Our mission as a foundation is saving lives in Talbot County through increased awareness, raising funds, and developing life-saving programs, and providing training and encouraging paramedic professionalism. Once again, thank you for watching this brief video on the history of Talbot Paramedic Foundation.
Just relax, everything's going to be okay.
They are men and women who are committed to saving lives, helping people, and staying here in Talbot County and doing it.
I witnessed really the birth of emergency medical services. When I was a police reporter in Baltimore is when the shock trauma was born. So I saw how quickly and how easily people's lives were saved.
In the middle 1980s, the Upper Eastern Shore was the last large geographic area of Maryland without advanced emergency medical care.
And when I came back home, my father asked me to come back and help him and run the bowling center for a while. When I came back, I witnessed how slow, how behind our emergency services were, and it was a shock to me.
But I knew at that time when I was on the council that these guys, and there were 5 of them that were the initial ones that came to us. And that would have been Wayne Dyatt, Mark Stokely, Gary Jones, Kevin Knussman, and Ray Taylor. Between the different fire departments and whether they were going to lose the ambulance, and the ambulance brought income to the fire department, so it was very controversial for these 5 guys to step forward and say, hey, we need to save lives, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to become volunteer paramedics.
Hello, I'm Kevin Knussman. I was one of the original 5 advanced life support volunteers in the Easton Volunteer Fire Department.
What they had done, of course, was research the programs in other areas, because every area did not have a paramedic program at that time, but it was getting to become the really expected and needed thing in healthcare.
A committee was formed from the Easton Volunteer Fire Department to establish a pilot advanced life support program for the Easton area. With financial support from the Easton Volunteer Fire Department, along with help from Memorial Hospital at Easton, their auxiliary, and the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services, the original 5 advanced life support providers purchased a vehicle that was operated under the Volunteer Fire Department here in Easton, and were able to establish a program where the providers responded directly from home to medical emergencies in the community.
These guys took this truck while they were working their professional jobs, and they worked out a deal with their employers that they could leave in the event of a call coming in. So when the paramedic call is coming in, the paramedics started saving lives.
When we had the first truck, we didn't have any place to really park the truck. And David Hill at that time was building a facility on Idlewild Avenue, and he offered to give a bay and some areas in which the truck could be.
It wasn't even an organization, of course, 25 years ago. But my boss, David Hill, was asked by Will Howard and Wayne Dyatt to help support them. And of course, he jumped on board. He admired the people who were getting it started. Initially, he and a couple of other people built a building to house their first ambulance. It's in a building on Idlewild Avenue. Probably people have driven by and wondered what that was. That was originally a garage for the first 5 guys who got together and volunteered, started this whole organization.
But back in the 80s when that happened, there was a huge rivalry. It was very controversial. They were going to lose the ambulance, and the ambulance brought income to the fire department, so it was very controversial.
I was on the county council, at which time it was first introduced to the council. Now again, you've got to remember, these guys were doing it on their own. It was not anything other than their concern for what could be the best health care for Talbot Countyans.
The 5 volunteer providers provided services for nearly 1 year, but that was limited as a pilot program only to the Easton area. A program was needed to expand out and serve the entire county.
Well, the county didn't want to get involved in this rivalry. That was one of the things they wanted to do, is to avoid the rivalry, the very political rivalry of various fire departments and emergency services. They wanted to stay away from that for one reason, for politically, and number two, they knew the funding would be huge.
When I was on the county council, even though this was a good thing, it isn't as though everyone was embracing it as, oh yes, we've got to go ahead and have this. Not that they didn't think it was a good thing, but there were pressures coming from a lot of different angles. You become aware of all the challenges there are from a budgetary standpoint. And when I saw that they were willing to have stepped up and become trained in paramedic practices on their own time, when indeed they had families, they had jobs, they had great responsibility, and yet they felt so convinced that this was something that was important for our county.
During the first year of operation of Easton's pilot advanced life support program, a task force was formed by the Talbot County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. The purpose of the task force was to create a county-wide advanced life support program and to seek volunteer providers from each volunteer fire department in Talbot County. A proposal to create an advanced life support program was presented to the Talbot County Council by the task force. After extensive lobbying by citizens of Talbot County, including a creation of the Talbot County Paramedic Foundation, the program was successfully funded. It was the first dedicated advanced life support program on the Eastern Shore.
Even though the funding was starting to be accepted by the county back in the mid-'80s, it's like a lot of other things. You really need an auxiliary, or you need some kind of an organization that is there to help promote it. And that's when the necessity of the paramedic board came to be.
So Talbot Paramedic Foundation was set up for 2 purposes: to get funding and to get political support. So what we did is we got members on our board who were influential with members of the county council, and we're able to sit down with them and reason with them to actually look into fund this. It took years to happen.
Years later, as a result of lobbying by the Talbot County Paramedic Foundation and the providers themselves, Talbot County established a county-level department head to run the advanced life support program, resulting in the creation of a professional Talbot County Department of Emergency Medical Services, where professionally trained personnel paid by the county operated well-equipped ambulances and covered the entire county.
Once the county recognized them as they're part of the county, then they blossomed.
Our county is very rich in so many things, and that we truly needed the most sophisticated, the most knowledgeable things in the extension of health care.
But today, there are 5 different locations where the paramedics are dispatched from. So Talbot County is one of the safest places in the universe.
One of our most recent projects is to provide our emergency services providers with the most state-of-the-art life-saving equipment. This piece of equipment is the LifePak 15.
Our biggest project to date is the LifePak 15. We are helping Talbot County purchase those. We need one for every unit.
Clearly, as a life-saving device, it's an invaluable tool. It gives a paramedic or an EMT the opportunity to fully monitor a patient's vital signs.
So the difference with the LifePak 15s is it has a different algorithm, more accurate algorithm for our cardiac patients. So it's able to give us a higher degree of accuracy versus our older machines for patients that are currently having a heart attack.
Let's say that particular person actually had the misfortune to have chest pain or another illness during a meal, started to feel faint, got short of breath. Someone calls 911. When the responders get there, they can immediately bring the same type of monitoring that we would use in the hospital right into the restaurant, into a patient's home, out into a farm field, at the scene of an automobile accident, the same way we could in the hospital.
We can also do 12-lead EKGs with a more sophisticated algorithm that tells us if someone's having a very specific type of heart attack that we need to treat immediately in the field, potentially sending them to specialty heart centers right from the field versus one of our local facilities. Most recently, we were able to transmit our EKGs electronically across a cellular network, and we can select a site of where we want to send it, and we press send, and it's now transmitting our EKG through an air card over to whatever hospital we select.
And immediately we would have the same kind of tracing that we would use in the hospital to see, is this really a heart attack?
Due to the electronics of this, we were able to send it to PDAs, to smartphones, to a variety of different platforms, so that they're able to view the EKG almost instantaneously and can determine what exactly is going on with the patient.
We're going to continue to raise money. We're committed to every single one of the units having a LifePak 15 in their vehicle.
It allows us to have the cutting-edge technology to treat our cardiac patients to a very high degree of accuracy and determine whether they need to go to a cardiac intervention center or to a local hospital.
I think it's important that we make the step up to save lives. Anytime that the technology improves in a quantum leap like it did here, I think it's important that we stay with that cutting edge of technology.